Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Chronicles of the Last Ditch Effort. Guys, I thought this would be a fun little series to do, talk about the last and final stadium proposals, possible designs before cities lost teams, and we're going to start with the St. Louis Rams, and this is actually super in-depth. Just looking at this, National Car Rental Field. I gotta say, it's not a great name, but it is. I think you guys will see a very impressive stadium that was to be located in St. Louis with a capacity of 62,000. It was expandable to 72K for Super Bowl and other events. Even if this ended up getting built, I think based off the fact that it's not retractable, I don't think they would really take a chance on hosting a Super Bowl here, possibly dealing with rain. You know, it is St. Louis in February. It can be kind of cold. So even if it was built, I don't think it would have ever hosted a Super Bowl. The cost of construction at the time, $1.1 billion based on inflation. This was back in 2015. Now I think it would be around $1.25 billion, which is not horribly expensive, especially with kind of these renovations we're hearing about, like the Panthers Stadium renovation costing $1.2 billion. But this was a stadium that was proposed in response to a deadlock over a potential Edward Jones Dome renovation, and I'm going to talk about that after this. The Edwards Jones Dome, yes, there are some photos of a potential renovation to it, but this was their brand new state-of-the-art stadium that was going to keep the Rams in St. Louis. A brand new NFL-specific stadium would be placed roughly 500 meters away from the Edward Jones Dome along the Mississippi riverfront. And if you take a look at the renderings, this is right next to the river, literally right next to it. Capacity would be right around 62K in a traditional three-tier layout. Around half that capacity would be available for smaller events like football, soccer games altogether. But let's just take a look at these renderings. You can see right along the river in St. Louis, you can actually see the Edward Jones Dome from that kind of aerial shot right there. I really, really like this stadium. Really. 62,000, solid capacity. Reminds me of Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, which I think is kind of an under-the-radar top 12 stadium in the NFL. And yes, while, these renderings were from 2014, 2015, it is a little bit dated, it still does look pretty nice. I really wish that kind of white roof was fluorescent and like color changing. That would be really cool. But there you can kind of see one of the upper decks that isn't connected to, it's not like it's all the way around like MetLife, which I think MetLife's design is horrible. This is a much better design to where the stadium doesn't feel like you're boxed in, like you're in a shoebox or something, where there's just walls around you. You can at least see out to the river, and it just makes for an overall better atmosphere. There's a nice aerial photo of it looking into it, and just get some more shots of it. Looks like that's right at sunset with the location right there. And there is the Rams that, before the rebrand, they kept the, Rams name, but they did change their logo, which, I guess you kind of got to if you're going to rebrand, but I don't know, man. I like the old Rams logo, and I like their color scheme as well. Getting to the interior of the stadium, I just really like the way this is designed, the overall layout. You've got the other upper deck kind of branching off, and then you can kind of see the angle at which it ends. That's exactly where the scoreboard starts. That's a really cool angled look. It really makes it look like it's futuristic. So that's something that I like. Also, you do have, at least a little overhang. If this was designed today, I'm sure there would be a lot more of an incorporation to like a big overhang that covers a lot of fans from potential elements, with these stadium rebuilds, if the Panthers, if the Browns don't get retractable roofs or domes, I do think there's going to be a much higher emphasis on some type of overhang like the Buffalo Bills have for their new stadium in covering at least 50 to 60% of the fans from potential precipitation. And if this was designed today, I do think you could modernize this stadium with roughly the same seating. You can kind of get a look at the way the one upper deck looks there. Just kind of its own little wing, that I do like. So overall, really, really nice stadium design. Of course, it ends up not happening. The Rams move to LA, and their owner, it's very clear based on the success level, what the team is worth. I mean, they're the third most valuable franchise right now in the NFL. Was that ever going to happen in St. Louis? No, it was not. So that's why you're seeing all these teams try and move, like the Oakland Athletics situation. Even if Oakland wins 2 World Series in a row, they're just not going to have a top 5 worth just because of where they're located and overall also the stadium, but just in general. So the Rams did make the right decision. I think this would be a great proposal for an expansion team in the NFL for St. Louis. St. Louis is a really good sports town. I know the Cardinals are not doing well this year, but this would have been a stadium that I think fits them really, really well. I mean, what is going on there? We've got some type of fluorescent seating. Some of these renderings are hilarious, but it's like, I don't know what's going on with those seats in that one. Looks like a nice little Taylor Swift concert, maybe a little event there. Yeah, it's very nice. And then this one also, I mean, what's going on with the upper deck seating? Did they forget to put it into the rendering or something? It looks like it has outlines St. Louis. I like the lower tier scheme of the seating. When it comes to like different color seating, I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially when it like spells out something. It just looks tacky. I would rather it all just be one color. Or if you want to do a design like they have where it's sectioned off on the bottom tier with the dark blue and then kind of like the I don't even know, like light yellow, whatever that beige maybe. Is that what that color is? Some type of beige? Maybe like sand, a little sandpaper yellow design there. That's what that color is. It's sandpaper yellow, but there is that. And then that was like the original rendering. I mean, they literally made the first rendering of this project. You can see the arch right there, by the way, all the way to the left. But it looks like the Tennessee Titans crap Nissan Stadium. That's exactly what it looks like in that rendering. But that was like a rendering from 2013. It was super early before they actually pitched the idea. These are like newer versions of it. Maybe the capacity is a little low. 62K for NFL. I mean, it's not crazy, but it does kind of feel slightly low. I feel like the standard for NFL is like right around 70K. I don't think capacity is going to mean a ton for a lot of these stadiums. The only thing I'll say about the capacity, like for the mega stadiums, you are going to want to at least seat like 80 or 90K, I'll say, when it's expandable with standing room, because those are the stadiums that are going to host the Super Bowl, and you want more tickets to be available for that. But I don't think St. Louis, even if this got built, I don't think they would ever host a Super Bowl. It's just too small of a stadium. And then also, would the NFL really risk weather? St. Louis, not terrible in terms of weather, kind of the center of the country, but early February, there's a chance of an ice storm. There's a chance 45 degrees. There's a chance of rain. I know they did the MetLife thing, but I'm guessing they kind of regretted that and they got very lucky. So that is just the overall design, kind of the blueprint outline where it would be located in relation to the Edward Jones Dome National Car Rental Field. The name is not good, but at least they got a name sponsor for it. And the proposal date of this was January 9th, 2015. The original cost was $985 million. It got bumped up to $1.1 billion after another proposal. In late December of 2015, a task force presented a nearly 400-page stadium proposal document to the NFL before the deadline, which included a financial term sheet, the approved St. Louis City ordinance, and the financing plan. And then just a week later, January 4th, 2016, the Rams officially filed their request to the league to relocate to the greater Los Angeles area, which required 2/3 majority vote from other owners. As part of the relocation request, the Rams rejected using National Car Rental Field. So that's interesting. They would have just brought National Car Rental Field or the renderings to LA. Obviously, they end up building SoFi. A week later, on January 9th, the NFL distributed a report to team owners calling the St. Louis stadium plan unsatisfactory and inadequate to keep the Rams in St. Louis. The NFL approved the Rams' Inglewood proposal by a 30-2 vote, and the rest is history. And it says, following the decision, it was announced that the task force spent $16.2 million on their unsuccessful proposal, which included design fees totaling $10.5 million for a stadium design. We're paying companies $10 million to design a stadium. I could design a great stadium, and I just want $100K. All I want is $100K. Can we do that, folks? Can we do something like that? I know people that design stadiums way better than these architect firms, and they don't make anything, but apparently they paid these people $10 million. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. I'm just trolling, but that ended up happening. So they spent $16 million to do nothing, basically, on a failed proposal to keep St. Louis, the Rams in St. Louis. So that is that. And then you can see the Edward Jones Dome, which is an absolute train wreck of a stadium, possibly getting a renovation, possibly getting new suites. This was proposed before the new stadium was. This was another way for them to try and keep the Rams in St. Louis. Everyone knew the Edward Jones Dome is completely outdated, and the big renovation with this one, it was to actually bring natural light and put up windows right above the upper deck like you see right there. Also a brand new kind of modern scoreboard in the center. So that almost like a jumbotron. So yeah, that ended up not happening, of course. And the Edwards Jones Dome is still standing. It's gotten some use with the XFL games. I think it's got a neutral site college football game coming up as well. But that was the story there on the St. Louis Rams last-ditch effort, to remain in the city that ended up not panning out. The Rams end up going to the LA Coliseum for a few years as SoFi gets built. Then they go to SoFi, they trade for Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp breaks out, Sean McVay's an offensive genius, they win a Super Bowl, and now they're kind of rebuilding, and we'll have to see what they end up doing. Maybe they'll go for Caleb Williams in the draft in 2024. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.